سيقولون ثلاثة رابعهم كلبهم ويقولون خمسة سادسهم كلبهم رجم بالغيب ويقولون سبعة وثامنهم كلبهم قل ربي أعلم بعدتهم ما يعلمهم إلا قليلا فلا تماري فيهم إلا مراء ظاهرا ولا تستفتي فيهم منهم أحدا. Suratul-Kahfi, Surah number 18, ayat number 22. سيقولون, soon they will say. And this pattern, يقولون, they say or they will say, sir means soon, so it naturally pushes it to the future tense. Otherwise, it can mean present or future, either of that. But sir pushes the meaning to future tense because it means soon. So naturally, the natural language suggests that way. So sayaquluna, soon they will say. And because yaquluna is repeated, so that means they say, they say, they say. That means basically some of them say something, some of them say something, and some of them say something. That's how it has to be interpreted. Sayaquluna, soon they, that is some of them will say. Thalathatun, three. That means they were three. I mean, how many of them were there? The youths. What is their count? So some of them, they were saying they were three. Rabiuhum kalbuhum. The fourth of them is their dog. Wayaquluna khamsatun. And they say, that means, and they will say, because once it pushes the meaning to the future tense and waw is connecting, so naturally everything is in the future tense. It's understandable from the context as well. So in the future they will say these things. And they, that is some of them, will say khamsatun, five. That means they were five in number. Sadisuhum kalbahum. The sixth of them is their dog. Rajmun bil ghaibi. Throwing stones at the unseen. That's what it literally means. We'll come to it a little later in our second iteration. Wayaquluna, and they say, that is some of them will say. Sab'atun, seven. That means they were seven. Wathaminuhum kalbuhum. The eighth of them is their dog. And the eighth of them is their dog. Kul, say, Rabbi, my Lord, A'lamu, is more knowledgeable, bi iddatihim, about their number. Ma ya'lamuhum, okay, ma ya'lamuhum illa qalilan. Ya'lamuhum, he knows. Ma is no. So how do we translate? No one knows. So the subject is, I mean, it's a negation. So no one knows. Illa, except, qalilan, a few, except a few. No one knows. Where is it? Ma ya'lamuhum, whom is the attached pronoun, about them. No one knows about them. Illa qalilan, except a few. Okay. The next part is fa. So la is no. Tumari fihim. Do not argue. So you, the pronoun is you. It's in that pen. But when we say in the English language also you do, we don't say you do. We say do. So similarly, so you do not argue. So do not argue. And the attached pronoun is there already. Him, fihim, about them. Illa mira'an, the same root word is used. So except miraran, zahiran is the mawsuf sifa. So except with argument, except with a manifest argument. So zahir, we know, is one of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is manifest. So in this case, a manifestly obvious argument. So mira'an is argument, and zahiran is the adjective. So adjective comes first in English language. So that's okay. So do not argue about them except with a manifestly obvious argument. If you have a manifestly obvious argument, okay. Otherwise, don't argue with them. Okay. And what does it say? Wa, and la is no. Tastafti fihim. Okay. Tastafti. The word fatwa and the sin and ta that you can see. Okay. This pattern, the sin and the ta, whenever it is there, it sort of is an indication that the meaning is that of seeking. So do not seek fatwa. Allah is their know. And do not seek fatwa, do not seek legal opinion. Do not try to know from them. Fihim, as regards details about them. Minhum, from them. So details about them is about the youths, and from them is from people who do not have any knowledge about that, about them, right? About the youths in the later generations, or even today for that matter. I mean, ever since the verse was revealed till now, this is applicable. So, okay. Ahadan, anyone. So how do we translate? How do we combine minhum and ahadan? Especially from any one of them. So don't ask, don't seek opinion, don't seek knowledge from them. They don't know anything about them. How can they give you knowledge? Okay, this is a verse. We need to, as always, break it down now for some very, very interesting conversations. Now, the first part is easy. Sayaquluna, soon they, that is some of them. This is now clear. Now, imagine a group. Imagine a group today. So these people are arguing amongst themselves. So some of them say they were 3, some of them say they were 5, some of them say they were 7. So there are very interesting conversations about this, and we'll cover all of these. We'll try to cover all of those, inshallah. So soon, yaquluna, they will say, that is some of them will say, soon they, that is some of them will say, thalathatun, 3. They were 3. Rabi'uhum qalbuhum, the 4th of them is their dog. Fine. And وَيَقُولُونَ خَمْسَةٌ, and they, that is some of them, will say خَمْسَةٌ, 5, they were 5. سَادِسُهُمْ قَلْبُهُمْ, the 6th of them is their dog. رَجْمٌ بِالْغَيْبِ, throwing stones at the unseen. Now this needs to be understood. So if there is a proverb, if there is an idiom in a specific language, you cannot just verbally translate it. I mean, you can, but then it will not have the same impact. A word-to-word translation of a proverb is not the ideal way to go about it. The ideal way to go about proverbs is if you have a substitute proverb, if a similar proverb in the language we are translating it as in. So, rajmun, stoning or throwing stones, bilwaibi, at the unseen, throwing stones at the unseen. Just as we say in the English, throwing stones in the dark, throwing stones into the dark, something like that. Right? So, that sort of connotation. So, they're guessing, they're idling, they're passing their time, they're unnecessarily they're doing time pass in this frivolous matter. People who don't have knowledge, because they are being referenced later, right? They're being referenced later. So throwing stones, guessing, doubtfully suggesting, all of these idly guessing about the unseen, about the dark. So this connotation is there. So proverb we have tried to understand, we have tried to get this understanding from another proverb, just we say in the English language, throwing stones into the dark, something similar. Because this is unknown, this is unseen, unless the knowledge comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these people will have no access to that knowledge. And if they insist of not gaining access to this information through the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they have no way to access this knowledge otherwise. And it seems these people who argue, they don't have that knowledge and they don't want that knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you will soon get to know what I'm talking about. Okay? And the last part is important. Vayakuluna was there previously once, and Vayakuluna is there here once again. Vayakuluna, this part. And they, that is some of them, will say. So some of them. Together, that group, the group of people, none of them have any knowledge. That group, that sort of a specific group Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to in this conversation, in the initial part. So it says, Sab'atun, 7, they were 7, the youths, they were 7 in number. And there is a deviation now from the previous language. It says, Wa thaminuhum kalbuhum, and the 8th of them is their dog. Now I am asking you, what is this and doing over here? Could we not have had the and inserted when they were saying 3 and the 4th, 5 and the 6th? Could we not have done that? And could we not have omitted this and over here, because the 3, the 4th, 5, the 6th, 7, the 8th? Could we not have done that? This is something to think and observe and ponder. And when you do go into a state of deep thinking and you trust Allah, then Allah gives you. Allah blesses you with His nur. And it is only through that nur that you are able to decode, not otherwise. I would have sat on this verse for 10,000 years and I would not have been able to decode anything. But if you have the nur of Allah, then you are able to decode things in a way none of the others are able to decode it, though it's in front of your eyes. This subtlety, the translator, the scholars en masse have missed. And they will suggest some things which I'll refute. Say, so this part, Kul, say, Rabbi, my Lord, and Alamu, they say, knows more. Knows is verb, okay? Alamu is af'alu pattern, akbaru pattern, Allahu akbaru, that pattern. Adjective, then comparative, so comparative pattern. It's noun, it's is more knowledgeable, that's the way to translate it, is more knowledgeable. Bi'iddatihim, about their numbers, about their number, how many they were. Now, the next part is very interesting, and be with me. Ma ya'lamuhum illa qalilan. No one knows about them except a few. No one knows about them except a few. Now, why I'm emphasizing this is because of this reason. When Allah says, no one knows about them except a few, what does Allah mean? Allah means a few, they have knowledge about them. How? Okay. The knowledge comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the nur of Allah, because of the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah decides to bless someone with his nur, then knowledge comes. Otherwise, he does not have any access to that knowledge. And what does the scholars say en masse about this verse, about the number of people, about the number of youths? No one knows about them. Don't argue. No one knows. Is that what Allah is saying? No. Allah says no one knows about them except a few. So those people who know, they exist. And if these people, en masse, the fools, the ignorant people, the jahils, if they suggest that even these people who know do not know, they are a liar. They are liars because they're contradicting what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So who knows? I think it should be clear to you what I'm suggesting. There are people who know and they're authoritative about it. And there are people, and this authority is not coming because of arrogance. No, it is coming because Allah has endowed them, blessed them with that knowledge. And Allah says that He will do that. So no one knows about them except a few. So the guideline is coming now. So do not argue. I mean, we have read the Arabic, that's fine. We can skip that. We need to focus on the message now. So do not. So you individually, where is it? Let's read it anyway. This one. فَلَا تُمَارِ فِيهِمْ إِلَّا مِرَاءً ظَاهِرًا. So you do not argue about them except with a manifestly obvious argument. So don't get into a debate with these people whose only objective is to create chaos and confusion. And how can they benefit the rest of the humanity? Because they themselves lack knowledge, have no knowledge whatsoever. And the only thing they say is just plain and simple lies. They say no one knows about them. When Allah says no one knows about them except a few, so few know about them, that's what it means. And why did Allah not say a few knows? Because it was more important to highlight the magnitude of people who do not have the knowledge. That's the majority. So that takes precedence. No one knows about them except a few. So do not get into arguments with these fools, these jahils, these ignorant people. Do not argue about them in the sense about the youths except with a manifestly obvious argument. Sometimes you may have a manifestly obvious argument and some of them may be inclined towards you. In that case, if you do have a manifestly obvious argument, so argument, the same word is used, right? Tumari and mira, and the same root word is there. So argue and argument. So if they have an inclination to understand the truth, and you have, so not just one, both the parties, there's a handshake over there. If they have an interest and you have, so sometimes we may not have knowledge. And if you do not have knowledge, don't get into an argument. So you may know, but you may not have the full evidence for everything. And or you may have forgotten, you may have heard, at that time you had sought the evidence and you were convinced, you looked and researched about the evidence and you were convinced. Later you are trying to convince someone else because you think they will be benefited just as you have been benefited, but you don't remember the chain of thought. So even then, Allah is telling you, don't get into arguments with these people. If you have that sort of manifestly obvious argument with you, and they are sort of getting inclined to know, they are softening up, and you can see that, and then it's okay. But the rule is, so do not get So you do not argue about them except with a manifestly obvious argument. And then the last part is wala tastafti fihim, okay? And you do not seek fatwa, do not seek any legal opinion, do not seek any knowledge, okay? Minhum, as regards details about them, ahadan, sorry, fihim is as regards details about them, fihim, minhum, from them, ahadan, anyone. So how will you combine these two? Especially from them, any one of them. So we don't repeat anyone. So especially from them, anyone. This is not natural English. So we say especially from any one of them. All of these people, don't get into any arguments with them. Don't seek any opinions. They don't know. Simple as that. And you will see that these are the people who say that no one knows about their number. Don't get into it. There are 2 points of discussion over here. First is it very important for us to get into this argument? Is it very important for us to know about their number? The answer is obviously no. How many of them they were is a very insignificant part of the discussion. Whether they were 3 or 5 or 7, okay, how does it matter? The fact that they were transferred to a state in which they stayed for such a long is a miracle in itself. Not the number of people who were in that state. That's hardly any miracle. It could have been less, it could have been more. How does it matter? It could have been 3, it could have been less than 3, 2 for example, or even 1. It could have been more than 7, 8 for example. How does it matter? Or 9 for example. How does it matter? It doesn't matter. But when they sort of get in an argumentative mode and insist that no one can know, then you have to rebut. And I will prove now. I have not even proved to you. The proof is there was an evidence in one of the previous verses. So qala, qalu, 1 plus 3 plus 3, 7. Here, if you observe carefully, it says, okay, first of all, which is the more authoritative? 3, the 4th of them is their dog. 5, the 6th of them is their dog. 3, the 4th of them is their dog. 5, the 6th of them is their dog. 7, and the 8th of them is their dog. Which of these 3 is the more authoritative statement? Obviously the last one, not the first 2. You can understand from the intonation in the English as well as in the Arabic. 7, and the 8 of them is their dog. That's an authoritative statement. And if you don't understand these nuances, then accept it, don't know. Why do you argue unnecessarily? Why do you waste your time and others' times? And imply and have an air about it that you know everything by saying that no one knows. You think you're great. No, that's not the way how it works. So this is one suggestion. 7, and the 8th of them is their dog. The second suggestion: after the first 2 statements, 3, the 4th of them is their dog. 5, the 6th of them is their dog. Throwing stones at the unseen. So in a way, Allah is refuting those previous statements. But when it comes to 7, and the 8th of them is their dog, Allah does not refute the previous 2. I mean, just as He refuted the previous 2 statements, He did not refute this statement. He could have put in this phrase, this proverb, this idiom, after the first 3 verses, throwing stones at the unseen. He did not do that. So you will see translators or scholars translating and clubbing all the 3 sentences together and then saying throwing stones at the unseen, which is wrong. You don't change the order. The order is not just the words, not just the phrases, not just the sentences. The order is also important. You don't change the order. You're messing up with the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And after the 3rd statement, 7, and the 8th of them is their dog, it says, say, my Lord is more knowledgeable about their number. So this, as if it is an attestation about their number. Now, another interesting fact which you would not know is about all the numbers that people could get into arguments about the youths, only 3 opinions ever came up in the history. That is 3, 5, and 7. And that is precisely the reason why these 3 statements are there in this verse, not any other statements. How beautiful, how profound can it be? So, throwing stones at the unseen after statement 1 and 2. Then, after the 3rd statement, which structurally is more emphatic, suggesting, okay, it's more authoritative, and the 8th of them is their dog, 7, and the 8th of them is their, and the 8th of them is their dog. The and is sort of an authoritative attestation, and immediately after that, it's a completely different sentence, reverse of throwing stones at the sun. It's say, my Lord is more knowledgeable about their number, as if it is an attestation. So if These things are very clear. And then Allah says, so this verse is connected to the previous part as well as the next one. No one knows about their number except a few. Who is saying that? My Lord, who is more knowledgeable about their number and about everything else. And he is saying, my Lord is saying, no one knows about their number except a few. So to claim that this few also does not exist is in contradiction with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't know, accept it, go ahead. Don't waste my time and your time. Don't say that others do not know. Don't do that. Don't say rubbish. We don't buy into all those nonsense. So it is about these nonsensical people that Allah further suggests, do not argue about them, about the youths, except with a manifestly obvious argument. Let them be. And you do not seek fatwa, legal opinion from these people. You will seek opinion, knowledge, as regards details about them, about the youths, especially from any one of them. Does it make any sense even? So this is the profound message. And how profound can a verse be? I've used this word before also, but truly, this is a very, very profound verse. There are layers. It has layers of knowledge, and through this, anyone who's able to decode it suggests that it is them whom Allah has already blessed them with His nur. So whom should you take knowledge from? Allah is trying to make it clear to you. Don't agree, don't waste my time. Agree, good for you. Don't agree, it's even better. It's even better for me. As it is, 999 will go to hellfire. Walk in that path. Just don't disturb and don't waste my time. Okay, so that's enough. We'll just read this verse one more time and then we'll read the translation. سَيَقُولُونَ ثَلَاثَةٌ رَابِئُهُمْ كَلْبُهُمْ وَيَقُولُونَ خَمْسَةٌ سَادِسُهُمْ قَلْبُهُمْ رَجْمٌ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيَقُولُونَ سَبْعَةٌ وَثَامِنُهُمْ قَلْبُهُمْ قُلْ رَبِّي أَعْلَمُ بِعِدَّتِهِمْ مَا يَعْلَمُهُمْ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا فَلَا تُمَارِ فِيهِمْ إِلَّا مِرَاءً ظَاهِرًا وَلَا تَسْتَفْتِ فِيهِمْ مِنْهُمْ أَحَدًا. Soon they, that is some of them, will say they were 3, the 4th of them is their dog. And they, that is some of them, will say they were 5, the 6th of them is their dog, throwing stones at the unseen. And they, that is some of them, will say they were 7, and the 8th of them is their dog. Say, my Lord is more knowledgeable about their number. No one knows about them except a few. So do not argue about them except with a manifestly obvious argument. And you do not seek fatwa, legal opinion, as regards details about them, especially from any one of them.